stuff on Facebook. I was like, "Wait, this is cool." And so it's really nice to get to meet you and have this discussion. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I think every discussion is equal. To me, it feels like two mirrors facing each other, um, sharing worlds, really, galaxies of memories coming into each other's view. I think it's tremendous. There's very few people, as you probably know, that are interested in this or who even wonder who they are. Um,
That's fascinating.
yeah, it is. I think people are born with that. It seems to be that even as children, they'd ask questions their parent didn't understand or know
Yeah.
how to answer. My
It,
grandson, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it makes you wonder if that innate curiosity into who we are
Hmm.
like dies down over time, or is it just a product of because of we're kind of hypnotized by the world that we stop asking that question, or is it just not maybe naturally innate in some people? It makes you wonder, right?
Oh, it does, truly. Um, one time, my grandson, who's now 23, just a toddler, he said, "Dad, Papa, what's the last number?" So he's, I think, one of those minds maybe that will eventually turn to looking inside. Although very few people say, I asked my wife that one time. I said, "You ever wonder what we are?" She said, "No." Doesn't cross her mind. So I don't know. The older I get, the less I know, which is in a way comforting. Uh,
Yeah,
I think there's good guesses and bad guesses.
yeah. Yeah, it's usually not a black or white answer, is there?
No, within a dream, which is as close to our condition as the objectifying brain can come with a name.
Hmm.
Within a dream, nothing is real. It's all a conceptual overlay. And so we are confined to using that in the attempt to understand what it is.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it's a heck of a conundrum that really doesn't exist. Um,
Yeah, I think when I think about it, there's ultimately you don't know, but I don't know. I've always very much resonated with Yogananda, Paramahansa,
yes.
and the little that he talks about the journey to self-realization. He believes it's karmic, you know,
Mm.
basically an energy carried over from past lifetimes. So there really is this like there is like a kindling in your spirit somehow. Like you're either going to be attracted to this or you're not, and that attractedness may be something that carries over from past lifetimes. We don't know, but I don't know. I like to think that even
Mm.
if it's just a belief, I like to believe it.
Yeah, it's beliefs all the way down. I
Yeah.
think that any belief about our condition is not true because in truth we don't exist. I see reincarnation as a hope for survival and partially the fear of death. Um, but we never lived. We never actually existed as personas. Our body does. This beautiful body that's highly evolved over hundreds of millions of years of evolution of tooth and claw, blood-fest evolution. Uh, we're the top. We're the top survivors of millions and millions of generations of people that struggled through the Great Plains of Africa and up through the ice ages, more than one, through the Middle Ages of Europe, which was plagues and terrible filth. I was talking to Claire yesterday, and she mentioned throwing the baby out with the bath. And that term comes from medieval Europe, where everyone bathed in the same water, and the baby was last. So the water was pretty dirty, so that throwing the baby out with the bathwater is part of our our syntax, part of our language now. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
always thought that was such a strange saying, though, isn't it? It's even, but that's interesting.
yeah.
Now that you-
Um, yeah, brides carried flowers because they smelled so bad. But our genes made it through, and here we are standing at the top of a mountain wondering who we are.
Mm, what a gift, huh?
Oh my God, I think sentience somehow evolved the capacity for introspection. Only through language. We have to feel separate from the world in order to see ourself as separate. And in that separation occurs this great longing for unification. But in unification, we wouldn't exist.
Mm,
It's a double-edged sword.
it is like the 8 million paradoxes of non-duality, right?
Oh, truly, truly. Oh, more. 9 billion people now on Earth, I think. Um, I think it's the jewel. It's the best and the worst life has to offer. Um, Love exists only in imaginary separation. There's no love in nature. Animals don't love each other. They may experience the same chemical reactions in their brain, the same warmth and the same wiggle that we do, but they don't know it. They don't even know they're here. But we do, or we think we do.
Mhm.
Oh God, I love life. I love being an old man. I love being at the edge of my life. I don't have that much longer left. But I had a stroke 10 or 12 years ago and I was on the floor. The world
Wow.
was dark and I could feel my body twitching, or the brain could. And the first thought was, I've had the most wonderful life. Um, it wasn't, oh my God, I'm dying, because I truly believe, like we were was saying, I never lived. I'm a swirling collage of memories.
Mm.
Um, but after I got woke up in the hospital, I thought, oh my God, the only thing I lost was my vision up here. The whole upper left quadrant is gone.
Okay.
But my brain, like your blind spot, compensates for it. I don't even notice it. I had to be careful driving because I just don't see anything over here. My
Right.
doctor said I had to be careful of eagles, and that's it. Whoa. Um, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have left, as far as I can tell, my faculties. I can feel those starting to become looser around the edges with old age. I have a dear friend whose mind is unraveling,
Mm.
and that happens if we're fortunate to live long enough. Uh,
Yeah.
he doesn't know it, but
Yeah.
I told my son, as soon as you say, Dad, it's time to stop driving, I will believe you. I love my son. Always been wonderfully honest with each other. He said, I'll let you know, Dad. I said, okay, I'll stop driving. I would
Wow.
trust. Um,
I
yeah.
had read your post about you had talked about volunteering with people with Alzheimer's and the coincidences of that existence and the links between the brain and the memory and the realization of a self. And then I read other people's comments, and that was truly fascinating. I've actually always wondered that as well. And my grandfather had Lewy body dementia, so I
Oh,
watched that whole unfolding process as well. And this is before I had any real experience with non-duality. I knew of it, but it was all conceptual at that point. But now, obviously, looking back at it, and it's really just truly fascinating.
mm,
Truly fascinating. The connection between the brain, the consciousness, memory, self.
mm,
But of course, the one thing that was real surreal as well is the fear and the fact that the identity itself creates so much stability within this reality, and that, and it kind of reminds me what a slippery slope this non-duality can be,
Mm.
because, the with the loss of identity can come an unstabilization, and I've been teetering that the past 6 months, if I'm being honest.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not saying in like any really scary ways, but definitely in some scary ways of disassociation, a lot of
Mm.
disorientation. Um, I just did a 7-day retreat with Awaken the World,
Uh,
a non-dual retreat, and it was beautiful. And I've done one 6 months ago and had some really amazing insights and non-dual experiences. And where the last one was pretty blissful. Like, I just an eruption of love, like
mm.
a volcano from my heart just filled me with bliss, and I cried happy tears and just joy and unconditional love, and saw like the consciousness just exploded from my body, and I just felt beautiful. But this time it was it was really touching the eye, really starting to dissolve, and it created some panic in the ego structure, and there's some real confusion as to I don't know who I am. And that just erupted into a wave of panic and fear, like a really bad trip. The last time I experienced that was on mushrooms, on psilocybin, where
Mm.
I was like, I felt like I was dying, and or going crazy. And I felt that again, and it took me a day to get past it. On the other side of it was a much more stable, non-dual, very awake presence. All was good, but it definitely has put on my radar the possibility of, you know, the understanding of identity being a slippery slope, you know.
Truly, it can vacillate between sublime peace and joy to abject fear. You're experiencing something that I believe almost everybody does, not necessarily in the sequence after starting on duality, sometimes before. I think I didn't experience that at any time. Some of the bliss I did during my 50 years of seeking, but the earlier part of my life was full of abject fear. Terribly dysfunctional house, alcoholic, violence, molestation. So all of that I was familiar with, the abject fear. I think I think people who get into non-duality as warriors, as on the front lines, this is not easy. This is, I think, the hardest thing a human being can do. It's not for children. It's not for those easily frightened. Um, I love people in non-duality. I've been to gatherings at Esalen and other places, and I fall in love with everyone there.
Mm,
That has since become spread out to everyone I see. I see as a warrior, as a beautiful human galaxy of memories,
mm,
wounded and beautiful, lovely and strong. Everyone I see. Um, of course, they exist only as images in my mind.
mm,
It's all self-love.
mm. I've
All of
heard you
that.
mention that before. Can I ask you? I love that you mentioned that. It's very serendipitous, because I was thinking before this, like, like usually people are like, "Tell me about you," and you're like, and I'm sitting there like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna say. Like,
Ah,
my life is a novel. How do I answer that in one question? So
ah, ah.
you're like, what would be most important? And I'm like, there's so many things I could talk about.
Mm.
Uh, but
Mhm.
it's very much in alignment with what you just said and your ability to love people and everybody that you see. And so I've been, boy, I tell you what, I am a warrior, like you said. I have diligently been aware of my awareness and of my thoughts and the self and explored and inquired for the past 8 years now, but I'll say with non-duality, the past 6 months now. Um, and I've already noticed how far I've come, and I've experienced Kensho. My awareness is awakened. I've had experiences, but then obviously I know there's still a far way to go. But my point is that I've come to a place where I can abide in awareness relatively easily on my own. And I have very little thoughts on my own, when I'm by myself or in the comfort of my own home. Where I still really, really struggle is in the world and around other people.
Mm.
Uh, and I'm sure you have a story and a past, and I do as well, and of not very lovely things happening, and a lot of people that I've loved that have been awful and done awful things, and it's been a lifetime of heartbreak and betrayal
Mhm.
and just ugliness, and it's contradictory to my nature because I have this huge heart and I want to love people so much, but I also don't trust people and I
Mhm.
can't love people. And I have this gigantic wall in my heart, I do know. And I have a really hard time with people still. And so it's easily triggered when at work and anytime I'm around difficult people, especially, which how many difficult people are there in the world? So many. But then when I get around difficult people, I lose that center. It's like the character comes to the foreground again, and
Mhm.
a scared little boy comes out, and the anxiety and the judgy, the all of that stuff really just comes to the forefront. And so I'm getting to the point now where I'm really trying to be able to abide in that awareness in all situations. And really, I think really the awakening, I'm trying to get it to maybe to be more in the heart. I've heard it discussed about becoming a loving awareness.
Mhm.
And that sounds lovely. And I just don't think I'm there yet. And I know for sure when I'm around other people that I'm not there yet. So then I hear you talk about how much you love people and you see, and so part of me is like, I would love to get to that place. So I don't know. Tell me your thoughts on that.
The other people that you see are other senses of self within this body. I mean, we all have bodies,
Mhm.
physically manifested tissue, blood and bone, sinew, hearts, livers, lungs. That's the physical body. The people you see with your personal sense of self are other personal senses of self. Um, they are images of image. You're an image within the brain, within what you think of as your brain. You're a composite of memories and hopes and fears and dreams and all of these swirling around an empty center. And that's true of everyone. Galaxies of self-referential memories. The wounded child stays with us. Everything that's happened to us is who we are. And you can learn to love that little boy who went through being a toddler and childhood is hell, can be. Adolescence is hell. Um, the bullies at school, the hurt and the fear and the insecurities. All of those woundedness we carry around as protection. They're not your enemy. There's nothing you can get rid of in there. It's all you. Um, There's no exercise, there's no self-help book that you can read that will help you attain what you imagine you want. Um, there's really nothing you can do because you are that woundedness. This is the hard part. This is the bitter pill.
Mm.
There's nothing you can do to change yourself. Your attempt to change yourself becomes part of who you are. Um, somehow, the body heals itself. If you get a cut, a small cut, little fibers form to create a scab and stop the blood from flowing, or they try. T lymphocyte cells from all over the body come in to body goes on alert, even with a small cut, and sends in white cells to sacrifice themselves to kill bacteria and virus, and all of that happens without us thinking about it. We take all of that for granted, but we think the mind needs help to heal itself. You're a wounded warrior. Um, takes time to heal. I think being around others who love you simply for who you are, appreciate your beauty, um, may help. I see you as this incredible city of lights, this busting forth of energy and maleness and um, so indescribably beautiful. You could not endure your own beauty if you could see it. It'd be far too beautiful.
Mm.
Um, but you're wounded. I went to therapy for a long time, had panic attacks, I'd wind up on the floor moaning, wishing I could die. I couldn't move. My wife would stroke my head, and I didn't want her to touch me. I didn't want, I just wanted to die. It was so bad. I'd wind up in the emergency room more than once with a paper bag on my head because the doctor said he didn't want me to hyperventilate, and nobody ever hyperventilates in panic attacks. But that paper bag was one of the treatments for years. God.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. Oh, and depression that came along with that.
Yeah, I've been there.
Uh, and the therapy and digging deep into the boneyard, festering pools of pus and blood,
Mm.
um, the pain coming out and sharing with others. Best therapist I ever had was a little lady who was crippled in her. When she was little, her mother would throw her around by her hair when she got drunk because she couldn't find a man that would stay with her because of this little crippled girl.
Mm.
We laughed together and cried for a couple years, and through that, this great healing came. One night I shared in the last meeting, I woke up with a vivid, it felt like a dream, but it was so vivid, it was a healing of some type, where I was being molested as a 2-year old, and all I could say was, Mommy, Mommy, and no one came. And I went all the way through the whole process, and I woke up and I could feel a finger stroking my face. And I thought, well, who is that? Who is there? And when I woke up, it was my own finger. I was soothing myself back into this dream. You have a cookie lady inside you, a natural healer, that you may begin to see that all of that stressing that you endure with others is self-imposed protection. It's there to protect you because you were hurt and it's not your enemy. Um, I don't know if beginning loving yourself or loving other happens first, but somehow it seems to be a general cleansing that comes over time. It can't be forced, just like you can't force the body to heal. And I'm only talking from personal experience. I have no idea what happens in other people. I have experienced this thing, this healing in other people. I've seen it.
Mhm.
I did bereavement groups for widows, facilitated bereavement groups for widows and widowers. And I've seen people, ladies mostly, sit at the table and cry so hard, sob and snot, cry, cry, cry. And it's like something breaks, and then they take a deep breath. And everybody around the table will not hand them a tissue. Everyone seems to sense that's part of their healing.
Mhm.
Several times in my life, I broke down and cried so hard. My wife held me, and I thought I was dying. In a way, I was. But that was part of the healing, too. Um, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing I would change. Sometimes I'll ask people, what would I change about you if I could? And they almost always say, what? And I always say nothing. How could I intervene in your process? Your perfect, beautiful, highly evolved processing. It takes courage to go inside.
Mhm.
Really does.
Mhm. Yeah. It changes everything though too, you know? And it's interesting as you share your story of suffering, which by the way, thank you for everything you said. It's very beautiful and everything resonated so deeply and was very deep and profound. So thank you for that. What I was also thinking is it's very interesting you have when you hear the stories of people that I guess I'll say are deep into or have achieved some sort of level of spiritual awakening or have learned to really contemplate and inquire as to their true nature. A lot of the root of that is suffering, you know, and has been so much suffering that you just know there's nothing else to do but to go within, you know,
Mm.
to go within and to discover those dimensions of the self that are wounded and but also illusory, you know, and it does somehow just have this natural path that somehow leads to places you could never guess or could never know or never really ever predict. You know, I don't know how I got to this place and but here I am, you know, having this conversation with you and would have never imagined that 6 months ago. So,
No, this is scary stuff. In AA, that which I was a member, I still am, and but I quit drinking 52 or 3 years ago. And through AA, I learned a lot of this compassion for self. There's a four step. You go have a sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous, and after a period of time, you go through the four step and you tell your sponsor everything you've done and everything that's happened to you and everything that bothers you. And it's kind of getting it out on the floor and looking at it and sharing it with another, our shame, our guilt. I watched a baby, this was years ago. Baby was touching their genitals and the mother slapped their hand.
mm,
I was young then. Now I would say something. I would. There's some fearlessness that comes. You just don't care. It it's fearless. But it starts there. The shaming. You can't put your fingers in your nose when you're little. Um, you can't touch your genitals. You can't masturbate. Shame builds over years. Guilt and shame follows you around like a hungry dog. All of those layers, all of that burqa of belief begins to drop. and you see yourself as this pristine human being. When you see that there's no such thing as choice, no human being chooses anything. They never have and never will. Choice is an illusion.
Mm.
Um, and then forgiveness becomes moot. There's nothing to forgive. And you see yourself as innocent.
Mm. Can you tell me more about that?
Hmm.
Um, about the choice, another choice being an illusion? I'd love to hear more about that.
Ah, that's one of the biggies in non-duality is choice. Do we
Mm.
have choice? Do we live
Leads into
after we die? All of those things are the pillars of choice is an illusion. If you give a dog two bowls of food, he'll go back and forth and then choose one, or apparently choose one. He doesn't. His brain is merely reacting to programming, an intricate, multidimensional programming that we have and all sentient life has. And it's, I think we can see in a dog, there is no choice. It isn't conscious. It isn't, but I think I like this one. This one tastes better. Um, his reaction, he just reacts. All of our reactions are labeled choice. If we think about it or do research on choice, eventually the idea begins to fade. It loses its tenacity, its edges. And we start to see our brain as merely reacting to things. Your reaction to other people, um, you can't help. You didn't choose that reaction. It's a
Mm.
reaction. Everything you do is a reaction. Everything you think you do. Everything the brain thinks itself does is its own highly and wonderfully evolved reaction. And those of us who have been hurt and wounded, our reaction is to see other people as aggressive, and we become not a victim, but we have the walls that go up. And that's there to protect you. It's not your enemy, like I mentioned.
Mhm.
Gradually and slowly discussing these things, sharing your pain with others, and realizing they have this. With the fourth step, I go through everything. It takes normally about an hour to go through it. And I did this with men and women, which normally AA doesn't recommend, but I didn't keep my wire. I didn't cross my wires with women. And I found out the women were just like men. They have the same desires, the same shame, blame, guilt, all the stuff. We're just humans doing the best we can.
Mm.
And most of us had no guidance as youngsters. Our parents didn't know what they were doing. They were loaded with shame and blame, most likely. And their children suffered that because of suffered, internalized that. But here you are. Here you're standing out in the open, in an open field. Um, like I said, it takes great courage. This is not easy. This is not for the faint of heart. I love people in non-duality. I do. I see
No, it's for fascinating for sure. Gosh.
God, yes.
You know, what you were just telling me about choice, and it clicked what you said, and then immediately thought of an interview that I watched with Sam Harris, and
Oh,
he
yes.
talked about the illusion of free will.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly what you were saying, that if you are already programmed to make certain choices based upon your brain, your chemistry, your experiences, just the way you've been conditioned and raised, that in an instant, you already are going to make the choice you're going to make based on that programming. Therefore, choice is an illusion. Therefore, free will is an illusion. And that's like,
Really?
because it feels so real that we have this free will. And of course, even our holiest scriptures talk about the free will being the most sacred of our sacred right of existing as a child
Mm.
of God is free will. But then if you don't have free will, then ooh, all that collapses and crumbles. So then what does that mean? Holy shit, I don't know.
It's fun to explore and terrifying. Again, you lose your concept of God. Without free will, God loses all meaning. The idea of God, of a higher being. I see nothing higher in the entire universe than the human brain.
Wow.
And some scriptures say, talk about ye are gods. You are the light of a world. I am the light of the world. I am is the light of a world, a unique world that nobody's ever seen before. Nobody's ever been remotely like you or ever will be again. You are the light of a one-of-a-kind universe. Um, we can't take pride in that, but we can be that. Um, LeBay and many others after him have proven that the brain reacts before the sense of personal identity is aware of it. It used to be microseconds,
Mm.
but now they think it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds is aware that it's going to make this decision, that this reaction, the brain reacts and seems to become aware of its own reaction before the sense of self does. I'm not quite sure. I remember how they did the experiment, but I forgot. But it's been done over and over again, and it completely obliterates the sense of self, the sense of identity. And along with the sense of identity comes the irrelevance of self. You don't want to lose the self. It's not your enemy. It's a wonderful gift. Without it, we couldn't talk. Our connection is language. That's our only connection between our galaxies of memories. But that's the light. In the language comes the light. And it's two mirrors facing each other. No one knows what happens with light between two mirrors. No one knows. No one knows what light is. No one knows what electricity, magnetism, or gravity are. We don't know anything. All we have is names. We
Um,
mistake description for understanding.
yeah, that's crazy. It's super fascinating. I know it is, boy, the more you start to realize within a non-dual awareness of just reality, the more it's almost like, gosh, it's almost like you feel like you're answering more questions, but you're not. It's like there's everything becomes a question at this point, you know?
Yeah, I can relate with that. It's an attempt to stabilize. This brain has a lot invested in its sense of self, and there's no benefit to losing it. I don't know if you're familiar with Nisargadatta and Ramesh Balsekar, which was the head of the Bank of India, who became his main disciple and eventually became an author himself,
Mm.
and also the teacher or one who started Wayne Lickerman, who I dearly love. But now I lost what I was talking about.
Siddhartha.
Mr. Gadada. What was that? Doesn't matter. It was going back to Ramesh. Uh,
Think what? Oh, boy, I lost it too. Doesn't that seem to happen frequently?
yeah,
I heard the,
yeah,
the deck is
got it.
reshuffled from each second, and then before you know it, you're like,
Yeah,
ah, the deck, the
yeah,
deck is reshuffled again. This happens to me frequently, especially now.
yeah. Especially now, I will think of these ideas that seem to swim up to the surface like a shiny trout or something. Um,
But without a self, it is like harder to contain them as they dissipate so quickly, you
they
know?
do. They evaporate.
Yeah.
Um, I'll try to write them down. I used to wake up in the middle of the night, try to write them down, and then I couldn't read my writing in the morning, and I'll think, "Oh, this is so good, I'll remember it," but it's gone. Uh,
Right.
that becomes fun also. We we don't try to capture them. We let them go back into the deep. Um, and all of those are analogies. None of them point to any truth at all. Everything I say is an analogy. There's no truth here. There's no such thing as truth. There's no such thing as things. There's no such thing as a mountain, a river, or an ocean. Those are just
Mhm.
names.
Facts. Yeah. Before you labeled things, things just were, right?
Um, we can never know because all we have is the names. We are the named perspective. Um, I assume there's a physically manifested universe. I wrote a post this morning about the physically manifested universe is what remains after we lose our belief about it. Um, I grew up with the Tetons in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And at one time I knew the name of every mountain because I think everyone who lived there did.
Mm.
But there's no line between mountains. There's no line between a mountain and a valley. There's no judgment on how large a hill has to be a mountain. They're just labels. They're ultimately meaningless. And our whole world is nothing but labels. And we try to use the labels to make sense out of themselves.
Yeah.
It's like the only book we have to figure things out is a dictionary. And sometimes somebody will give us a thesaurus, which doesn't help.
Let me ask you a question because I'm hearing a couple of things that you said and then letting it process. And of course, it's very interesting to have conversations with people in the non-dual world because it's very fluid. But of course, it can be very contradicting as well. Everybody has their own,
Sure.
I guess, perspective of what it is and who they are and what reality is and all of this stuff. And so obviously I try, the mind tries to make sense and compare and all of that good stuff. So, but obviously what, the main tenets of non-duality is realizing the illusoriness of the self, right? The I thought that I'm not the I. But a lot of what you're saying, of course, is that there is an I,
Hmm.
and that it's very important. And you have talked about, this way we can have this separate sense of self and we can communicate and have sentience and
Hmm.
this experience of being human, and that it's necessary. And I don't see that any I don't see anything wrong with that at all, of course. It just maybe creates a little confusion, of course, because then you hear so much of the teachings about, well, there is no I, there is no I. And so how do you marry those two ideas? What do you think?
I think I think the suggestion that nobody has any idea what they're talking about and concerning this, we can't tell what it is from within it. We are part of whatever it is. So how could we tell from being part of it what it is? And if there isn't it, or if it is just a dream that we share, um, those are guesses. Some are good guesses and some are bad guesses. Um, I do not believe in life after death. I do not believe in the life of the self or anything that exists after. I've sat with many dying people in hospice,
Hmm.
and I can see a whole galaxy coming spinning out of cohesion. Um, Beautiful stories. Like God, the stories people tell you when you're a hospice volunteer. um, whole chapters of God, you just don't have them long enough to read more than a few chapters, but you see heroism. I had World War II veterans that had these incredible stories. Um, and then you fall in love with them, and then they die. And you realize we're all dying. From the moment we were born, we started plummeting to our own death, some sooner than others. Can happen at any moment. The life of yourself becomes precious beyond measure. The life of others, your relationship with them becomes precious because at any moment they can be gone. I hug my grandchildren as if it's the last time I'll see them. Um, and they hug me a long time too, because they know I'm old and can see the ocean from where I sit. Um, Life becomes so precious, you don't have time to worry about the small stuff. You don't have to worry about fixing yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. I sound like I'm trying to teach you something. I'm not. I'm just basking in your light. I'm soaking in your beauty. Um, and I thank you for that. It adds another star to my galaxy, another sun, another sun. Um,
Amazing way of experiencing humans and life. Definitely a beautiful way to do it. Um, I'm interested. You said that you don't believe in life after death. That's interesting, especially, I mean, obviously none of us know, but I mean, when you take into account so many people's experiences, I'm talking about like, let's talk about near-death experiences. People who, of course, have maintained consciousness and realize their consciousness goes beyond their body and has experienced other realms and then come back to tell the story. And
Mhm.
how does that come into play of your view of life after death?
One time, my brother called me up many years ago and said, I get out of my body at night and I can't get back in. And he was terrified.
Oh boy.
And so I thought, God, that's weird. So this was long before the internet. And I went to the library and asked the librarian to help me find any books on out-of-body experiences. And at that time, there were seven that I was able to dig up. Muldoon and a lady or a person named YRAM, which is Mary spelled backwards. And there was like six or so others, five or six others. And I read each one of them, and some of them had exercises that they used to. And I tried it for a long time, 4 or 5 months. These exercises, nothing happened. I thought, well, it's just crazy. My brother called. I forgot her name. There's a lady at UCLA that was doing research in out-of-body experiences. I had it just recently, but it doesn't matter. And my brother called her up and finally got a hold of her, and he said, I get out of my body at night and I can't get back in. She said, oh, yeah, that happens to a lot of people, and hung up on him.
Ah,
I
just
really tried, and then I forgot about it. And one night I had thought I had fallen outside the bed and was laying on the floor. And I thought, God, did I fall out of bed? And I reached down to push my hand up, and it went right through the floor.
whoa.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm out. And I snapped back in the body. Fear will bring you back.
Yeah.
So over the next 10 years, I played with that and out of body experience and lucid dreaming, where you can tell yourself you're going to remember your dreams. And then after a while, you say, I'm going to know that I'm dreaming. And And you know you're dreaming, you'll say, this is my dream. I can do anything I want. And you can do literally anything you want.
Mm.
And some of those are wonderful adventures. You can steal cars, sidle up to women, and well, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I played 10 years with this, and I got out of my body, or thought I did, hundreds of times. I go, it feels like ringing in your head, and then bang, all of a sudden you find yourself floating on the ceiling like a balloon or something. And you can go up through the ceiling and up through the um, top of the roof and sit on the roof and look at the stars. And then you can fly through forests. I flew over cities that were all domed. I've never seen anything like it on Earth, and I could see people walking down below. You go on this most incredible adventure, like anything you can conceive of, you can do. For years, I thought I could get outside my body, and I thought anyone could with enough practice. I no longer believe that. I think the brain is so creative that it will create worlds beyond worlds for us. I don't think there's an entity in the brain that can leave. All the research, people keep on my list. I don't know if you've come across them yet. Well, keep trying to convince me of out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences. Moody, who wrote the book, they all want me to read that, and I won't. Um, and it's to me, it's given a wonderful image of how beautifully complex and creative the human brain is. In the experiments, in the double-blind studies, they've never had a person that could leave their body, go to the next room, and find four numbers written on the wall and bring it back. And they never will, because nothing leaves the body, nothing leaves the brain. You think it would be easy? I thought it would be easy to go to my friend's house and then tell them what they were doing. And it doesn't work that way. You
Mm.
get out and you don't care about any of that stuff. So
Yeah.
you just go around doing whatever you want, like a dog unleashed at the beach.
Mm.
Uh, but nobody, even in serious out of people who claim they can do it at will, they cannot go next door and find four numbers. And they won't. I know they won't because
Mm.
it's impossible. You never leave your brain. There's
Interesting.
inside the brain is the world, your stars swirl inside your synaptic gaps. Your trees grow inside of this beautiful brain. There's nothing outside of that. But there's worlds beyond worlds in there. It's such a gift, such a jewel to be a human. And most humans spend their life wondering who they are.
Mm.
When the collapse, or if this collapse happens, and it will happen over time or through a personal Armageddon, there's no questions and nowhere for questions to arise. Um, I have no questions about anything. I love the physical world. I study things on YouTube about nature, and the two girls who have share one body. I found a tape on those that has an anatomical study of their bodies and how they're joined and what they share and how one controls one arm, one controls the other, and one controls one leg and one and they've learned to walk and drive a car. I got it. They're just breathtaking. Um, and your brain is never stretched. I mean, that old theory about that we use 10% of our brain, but if that were true, we wouldn't be smart enough to know that we use only 10%. We are geniuses. We are the most fantastic organism that's ever lived. We are the jewel of the universe. There's nobody like us in the world or in the universe. There couldn't be. Evolution never repeats itself. A naked ape evolved from little rodents that were in there during the dinosaurs. A naked ape evolved and could develop a complex language that could share their lives with each other. That's never going to happen again. When we're gone, the universe will not be aware of itself anymore. We are
Mm.
the tiny window through which the universe gets a peek of its own magnificence. Wonderful it is. Butterflies and bluebirds and bluebells and hummingbirds. The list goes on. Every year they discover hundreds and hundreds of new species they never saw before. I don't worry about plastic in the ocean. I separate my trash because the trashman won't pick it up if I don't. Ah, but I know most of it goes in the same pile, and I don't care. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing I can do about the war in Israel or Ukraine. My heart aches for I can only imagine the heartache. But wars have always been with us, and they'll continue to be with us. There'll never be peace on earth.
Yeah, that's that's a sad.
Is it?
But I mean, uh, it kind of exists like you said as duality. Like if we do live in a dual world, you know,
Yeah.
it's just kind of
The
this
world
is what's happening.
Yeah, it's world's half up and half down. Um, I tend to think it's more good from this standpoint. Well, I don't know. It's half up and half down. You start a journey and go anywhere in the world, and you will have traveled half up and half down physically. Exactly, half up and half down. Um, and all of those are analogies that are like weaving smoke. They don't give us anything to hold on to. There's nothing to hold on to here. You free fall into a vast unknown unknowableness. But the free fall becomes more like floating after a while. And you open your eyes and see the world stream by and all of its magnificence. Then you start to see your own beauty, your own strength. You're a vibrant young man, beautiful, full of life, full of masculinity. I love being a man. I love the electricity between men and women. Without that, none of us would be here.
Mm.
I love how easily I can move my hands. I watch children play Bach on the piano and what goes on in those little brains. Little chess players that beat really people that have been in chess for a long time, 6-year-olds. I can't understand chess. I don't think with that part of my brain. I am terrible at math. I can't do it.
Mm.
I've went college algebra twice, and the professor said, Mr. Markham, I'm going to pass you. Just scribble something on the papers and I'll give you a C. I love him. I love him. One of my cookie ladies. I'd cry at 3 o'clock in the morning over algebra, and my roommate was a math major. He tried to help me, couldn't do it.
Mm.
Can't get it. That test in cognizance where they give you 100 and say count backwards from 100 by sevens. And I can do 93 because I've memorized that, but there's a block. I can't go any further than that. I
Mm.
My wife can do it. I can't. And
Mm.
I'm the other side of the brain. And I thought I was dumb because of that. I'm not. I became very successful at business retired very comfortably. I don't worry or think about the price of groceries. Uh,
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of kids that live like that, unfortunately, thinking they're dumb because,
oh,
like Einstein said, right? About teaching a fish to climb a tree.
yeah, yeah, I love that. Teaching gophers to fly. Buglosia, I think, had a whole little story about that, teaching snakes to dig holes. Yeah, we
Well,
label our
let
kids.
me tell you what, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then it'll spend its whole life thinking it's dumb.
It's dumb. One of my granddaughters, who I adore all my kids, she has trouble reading. So come to find out, they diagnosed her, and my both my son and his wife are so lovely. They encourage her in areas that she's a brilliant dancer. She's creative. She invents stuff. I like to invent stuff, little things, gadgets. She does too. So we get together and talk about our latest gadgets, and she's brilliant. So she doesn't feel slow because she has trouble reading. Oh, I love that. Um, oh, I love people and I love myself. I've been through the ringer and survived. Everyone gets to go through the ringer. Not everyone survives. Life is hard. No guarantees. Life could give a hoot about us. It doesn't even know we're here. It's impersonal.
Mm.
Um, but we know we're here. We're the only thing in the universe that knows there's other imaginary selves, and we can connect through language, which is amazing. I don't speak to someone who doesn't speak my language. I don't understand them. English speakers, I can just dance with. And it's a freestyle dance, like Dixieland jazz. It's freestyle. Everybody's playing their own thing, but somehow it all comes together. They can't make a record of it because it's different each time.
Yeah.
And they get in what they call the pocket. I learned that from a musician. He and his girlfriend came to visit, and he said sometimes they get in the pocket, and everyone in the band knows it. And yeah, if you watch bands, and I don't listen to music, but if you watch bands, sometimes the musicians will look at each other and smile. And I think they're in the pocket. They know something's happening that they can't describe. Do you play music? Are you a musician?
Um, I like to sing, but
Oh,
so music has been a huge part of my life.
oh,
Yeah, my dad was a singer in a band and all that stuff growing up, so it's always been a big part of my life. But I know exactly what you mean being in the pocket. It's almost like a collective mind, like they know they're co-creating in that moment. And there's a synchronicity to what they're doing. And it's bigger than yourself, and it is like, wow, look at this. It's kind of surreal. But so I've seen that before, and it's pretty amazing.
if you sung with others, it's happened. It happens in across human in warriors. 10 warriors put together become one thing. They will die for each other. They won't leave the other behind. When they get back from war, they want to go back to that because they were in the pocket. I was a carpenter for years, and a framing crew. When you build a house, sometimes you get in the pocket, and everybody knows their job. And pretty soon the walls are pushed up, and then trusses are hung, and it, it's 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 beautiful. One of the joys of being human. We're tribal, really. I think small tribes live in the pocket maybe their whole life. Um, our tribe has become too big for that now. We don't have that cohesion. I think groups like non-dual groups can simulate that and even be that. Maybe that's why we love them so much. I don't know. I don't care. Maybe we just want to get back in the pocket again, and that's okay with me. I love
Yeah,
talking to people like you.
it does make sense, doesn't it? It is like it's a natural flow of conversation that you can't have without that being in the pocket, or it's almost like two frequencies that just don't quite match,
Hmm.
when you try to have conversations with somebody that's not on that frequency, And so yeah, having a non-dual conversation with other people into this is very fascinating. I definitely couldn't have had this conversation. Oh God, a year ago, I would have been in my head the whole time. I would have been confused. I would have been analyzing everything you say. I would have been comparing everything I know to what you're saying, whether I agree with it and why and what that means about me. And like, but yeah, it's interesting how like that has changed because now there's just being able to be present and having a flow of the conversation. And
Hmm.
I this wouldn't have been possible a year ago. So it is amazing just to kind of see that and and it does go into. I think that's beautiful because many times you've mentioned about how much not you just love people, but you love yourself. And so I think it's important even to recognize those moments because there are those moments where you're like, wow, this is amazing, like, and so you can definitely feel proud of yourself or even marvel at yourself, I guess I would
Yeah,
say, which
yeah,
is great.
horrible. Yeah. And when we end this conversation, most likely, you'll find yourself starting to rebuild the familiar. It's kind of like kicking a hole in an ant pile. Right away, the ants start rebuilding. When we were kids in Wyoming, we had red ants, which would build, 2 foot tall stacks of pine needles. And as little boys will, seem to enjoy kicking holes in anthills. And there's a frenzy to repair back to normal, back to what ants consider normal. And it took a long time to build this sense of identity that you have. And the brain has no vested interest in losing it. There's no advantage. One time, this Wayne Lickerman, who I was talking about, was walking with Ramesh after his awakening. And he asked his teacher, he said, they were headed to the dog track. And he said, is there any advantage to this? And the teacher said, nope. But I would say there is the loss of the existential angst that follows around shedding of the bloody rags and tear-stained shirt. Um, the pain of being human dissipates and leaves us naked in the mall. I don't know if you've ever had a dream of being naked in the mall, but I do.
I haven't, but that's a great analogy.
One time I had a dream I was sitting on the toilet naked in the mall.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
gee.
terrifying.
Evidently, that was the worst fear my brain could conjure up.
That, that would be really bad.
It's not comfortable.
No, no, you don't want that at all.
I don't want that.
No.
Um, but then you learn you can face anything. Bring it on. You're a bring it on type of guy. You're fearless. In your gentleness, you're fearless. If you meet aggression, I haven't seen aggression in a long time. But if you come across aggression, you see it as fear, and your male hormones don't kick in. You don't want to fight. You just want to love them back to center. There's a story of a Zen master who was sitting on a bus. Great big guy came in and started slapping people. And no, he was a Aikido master. That's what. And great big guy came in and started slapping people. And he watched him with gentle eyes, and the guy looked at him, and he looked at him again, and he opened his arms and said, "Come here." And the guy sat next to him and eventually leaned over, and the old man stroked his hair. Um, I don't know if that's a true story, but it's a wonderful symbolism for our condition. Um, oh, I see young men walk by sometimes. I was telling Claire yesterday, and young men, you can tell if they didn't grow up with a father because they strut, they put their shoulders forward. They're ready to take on the world. And sometimes they'll look at me. I'll be sitting in the car and they'll look at me with those dark eyes, and I'll give them a mean look like, and they look at me like, old man.
Yeah.
But then they start to laugh, and I start to laugh. For a minute, it breaks the spell.
Oh wow.
Um, all
Uh,
those things. I play whenever I go out. We're going to go pick up groceries today, I think. And I'm excited about like a kid or like a dog when you say, let's go to the park.
that's funny.
It
Uh,
is. It is. I joke with the people who bring the groceries to the car. We have them bring to the car because my wife doesn't like to go shopping. She's really cautious about COVID, and I understand that. I don't care. But anyway, she does. And so they bring groceries to the car and they say, I call up and say, "This is Michael Markham in Space 5. You have 2 minutes this time to bring me the groceries." The guy says, 2 minutes? I can't make it in 2 minutes. I said, you can. Go. So I see them, I see him running across the park. These groceries. And of course, I'm not tired. I say, you just barely made it this time. What's wrong with you? So then we start laughing. And then they can hardly wait to come back. And I tell people, I say, tell your parents they did a good job. And I mean that. If they survived, they did a good job. They did their job. They did a good one. Oh, God, it's so much fun. I love talking to you. I love talking with people like you. I relate to you on so many levels. Our galaxies, for a moment, merge, and part of you remains with who I am and will until the day I die. You have perfumed my life, and I thank you for that.
that's beautiful. Some the things you say are so poetic and but profound and beautiful and authentic more than anything, which is to me the most important. So I thank you for that, and I very much value this conversation and talking to you as well, and I'm very thankful to have met you and to have had this conversation with you.
I feel the same. And if you ever want to talk again, let me know. Um, these are equal exchanges. Like I mentioned, no one benefits more than any other. Uh, Half up and half down world again. There's no, wow, I don't talk about this stuff because I feel compelled to. I talk about it because it pulls me in like a beautiful song. There was a little girl just recently who grew up singing. She knew she could sing and she thought everybody else could sing. If you were to sing a song with me, it would grate so hard against your sensibilities. You couldn't stand it. You could not change your face. When I sing to myself, I sing out of tune,
Yeah.
which is that dawned on me, I don't know, a short time ago. I was singing to myself and I thought, well, surely I can sing in tune if I sing to myself. It's just as bad. Oh, so it's lovely to hear someone who can sing and is and admits it, who says, I can sing. I love that. I love you.
Oh, love you. Thank you.
That gets easy to say with time. Uh,
Yeah.
it's quite delightful. I heard it's just a little ding on my computer. I don't know if that came through on your side or not.
Mm-mm.
Another one. In that movie, somewhere it says that's when another angel got their wings. So it's a nice, it's a bing. I think it's a message or something. I don't know. It's a very nice thing. Uh, oh, this has been lovely. I thank you. If it's all right, I'll post this video on my page and maybe YouTube.
I would love it. I would love it. And I'll find your page because I don't think I've linked up to that one yet on YouTube. So yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, wonderful. I don't think I have a page, but just if you look under Michael Markham, um, I don't know. I probably have 15 or 20 by now. Some of them come up and some of them don't, but that's okay too.
Okay. Well, if you're making YouTube videos, then you definitely have a page because they would all be on your profile.
Okay, there you go. As
Yeah.
I learn something every day.
There you go.
Every day. Yeah. Oh my. This has been
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you
I would
so
be honored. I'd be honored to be on your page and all that. And I would very much love to have another conversation with you, and that'd be great.
wonderful. You have a very beautiful resonant voice. I can only imagine what it's like singing.
Mhm.
It must be beautiful. What a gift from your father.
Yeah.
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 There's a man, Darren, who's in these groups, who was a famous rock singer, uh, opened for a lot of very famous groups and also toured on their own. I don't remember the name of the group, but he's retired now in England and has a beautiful 10 or 11-year-old son. And he comes on and talks sometime. It'd be nice to have you meet him.
Oh, cool. That
Won-
would be nice. I love
Wonderful.
it. The most I do with my singing is karaoke, you know, but I do love karaoke because it's
Oh,
just
God, that would be fun.
yeah, I go all the time. Well, I used to go a lot more. Recently just moved to Richmond, Virginia, so I don't go as much as I did in the previous city because I'm still fairly new here. But yeah, man, because you know, anything that you do that brings you joy and that you're passionate about is there's nothing better than just expressing something that you're passionate about. So I do need to find more time for that. But it's
Yeah.
because it's very interesting as I've been into this non-duality. It feels like it has taken a lot more of my time, not in a negative way, but just, you know, there's a lot of inquiry, there's a lot of
Okay.
contemplating. It just and it's enjoyable. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all.
No, no.
However, it does sometimes get too serious. Of course, it gets too serious.
Yeah.
So much contemplation about who am I.
Yeah.
Wow, super valuable and fun in a way. It definitely gets too serious. So I gotta find ways to play more for sure and you know, do other things that I enjoy.
Try to post, if you can, a video of you singing karaoke on my page. Would you do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, let me look into that. And then even if I can't post it to your page, I could definitely send it to you and I could send it to you in Facebook as a message.
Oh, good. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you can, I think from your computer, you could post it directly on my page. That would be wonderful. If you can't, Messenger would be fine. And I think someone like you singing karaoke, find a few people will be watching you, and then more and more people will be pulled in by your voice. That must be pleasant when the majority of the room is actually listening to you and soaking your talent in.
It
I
is
can
not.
only imagine what that's like. I wouldn't even try karaoke. For someone like you, it's so easy.
Well, no, honestly, part of it, to be honest, especially the karaoke part, was extreme fear at
Oh
first.
my goodness.
Extreme fear because it's getting up in front of everybody. It's like the first time you do it is like being naked in the mall, you know,
Oh,
because it
ah,
isn't even about the fact whether I can do it or not. It's like it's the part of you that cares what people think.
oh my God, yes.
Your fear of being judged and just what are people gonna think? And so the first, boy, 50 times I did it, like my hands shake,
Oh no.
because I'm scared. So part of it isn't just the enjoyment of singing, but that ability to overcome yourself, to
Oh
overcome.
my. Yeah, they say the world, even world famous actors and actresses throw up before they go out on stage. Uh, my my one of my granddaughters, who's 13 now, has been in, I think, 6 or 7 plays. And I said, Gwenny, do you ever get nervous before you go out? She has singing parts too. And she said, I do, Papa, I do get nervous. I said, well, that's normal. I said, that famous stage actors and actresses sometimes throw up before they go. She said, I only threw up once.
Well,
Ah, she's 13.
uh,
Oh, God. But the courage she takes to get up in front of 200 people and memorize all those lines just amazes me. Everyone amazes me. You amaze me.
that's awesome.
Truly,
That's awesome.
truly wonderful. This has been wonderful. No,
Absolutely.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'll post that video for you soon, and then
Would love that.
yeah.
I would love that. Do you ever like sing two more than one person get up and sing karaoke? Does somebody come up on stage and want to sing with you? Does that happen?
Yeah, I sing with other people all the time.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, what fun that must be.
Actually, my sister is a really good singer too.
Oh,
So we'll go do karaoke together and people will be like, "Oh my God, you guys are so great." I'll be like, "Yeah, that's my sister." They're like,
my
"Wow."
sister. Oh my
And
God.
what's so funny is that my sister and I both she's my half sister. So obviously we have different fathers. We
My
have the same mother. So the s- the parent that we share can't sing a lick. Can't sing a
God.
lick. My mom is tone deaf. She cannot
No.
sing at all. So it is a complete mystery as to how she can sing because neither of her parents can sing. I can sing. It makes sense because my dad does, but
Yeah.
somehow we both have the gift for singing and we sing
My
beautifully together.
God.
And we can't really explain why or how, but it's a lot of fun.
That gives me chills. It's just unbearably beautiful. What fun. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. Don't put pressure on yourself, but it will be great enjoyment here to hear that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right, Michael, well, you have a great rest of the day. I hope you enjoy your shopping and
Yeah. Yeah.
messing with people, having a great time.
Like I said, anytime you want to talk, I'm almost always here.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nolan. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Uh,